I let him humiliate me in front of everyone, never fighting back, not because I couldn't, but because I promised I wouldn't. Now the truth is out, and I'm not sure which part of me they'll hate most. I'm the shortest guy in my MMA gym, 5'5", built in a way that makes people assume I'm just someone's little brother tagging along. Which means to some people I'm an easy target. And to Bradley, the 6'3" amateur champion, apparently I was his favorite target. He'd knock my stuff off the bench, toss my gloves in the trash, treat me like a live-action punching bag, and all of it right in front of everyone. The thing is, nobody there knew the promise I'd made to my therapist. See, the last time I lost control I put someone in the ICU. I swore I'd never let that happen again. No matter how much someone pushed me. So when Bradley came striding over while I was chatting with Kate, the front desk receptionist, I already knew exactly how this would play out. He planted both hands on the counter, leaning forward so his massive frame completely blocked me from view. Kate, you coming to watch real training today? His voice carried over the music. Got some guys from Jackson's coming in to spar. I tried sidestepping to stay in the conversation, but he shadowed me, nudging me back with his hip. I moved the other way. He widened his stance, cutting me off like he was defending a takedown. Kate leaned to look past him. Actually, Bradley, I was just... Hold that thought. He stepped back, just enough to accidentally kick my water bottle off the bench. It hit the floor and exploded across my gym bag, soaking my street clothes. Oops. My bad. Loud enough for half the room to hear, but without even glancing down. I crouched to clean up the mess, wringing out my shirt. That's when Bradley picked up my gloves, holding them between two fingers like they were contaminated. He gave an exaggerated sniff and grimaced. These are women's gloves, right? Someone on the mats chuckled. Kate's tone sharpened. Bradley. Still holding my gaze, he dropped them in the trash. Just trying to help you out. Can't build real power with gear like that. I retrieved them without a word. Come on, little man. Let me fix your form before you hurt yourself. Now half the lunch crowd was watching. He grabbed my arm, jerking it into position, twisting my wrists, shoving my elbows in. Too narrow. He kicked my feet apart hard enough to make me stumble. Hands too low. He shoved my fists up to my temples. Every correction came with unnecessary force. A joint lock here, a dig at my ribs there, masked as teaching. Phones came out. All right, cage time, he said, steering me toward the octagon. Kate, come watch. This is important. I stayed loose. No resistance. No excuse for him to claim I'd fought back. The cage door clanged shut, metal on metal, and for a second my body remembered what that sound used to mean. Bradley started slow, demonstrating an arm drag that bent my shoulder just past comfort. Feel that? That's what happens when you don't know how to defend. He cranked into a standing kimura. Any real fighter would have countered by now. I tapped his leg, but he held the lock for a couple seconds too long before letting go. Then came the collar ties, light slaps to the head at first, getting harder, ringing in my ears. Wake up, he barked. Fight back. Every instinct screamed to sprawl, to shoot, to do something. But I'd made promises. He shot a lazy double and I let him have it. We hit the mat, he mounted immediately, his weight pressing the air out of my lungs. I bridged half-heartedly, he surfed it easily, then turned to the crowd. This is what happens when people think YouTube videos make them fighters. Kate stood now, frowning. Bradley, that's enough. He's not even fighting back. Exactly my point. She stepped in to stop him and he grabbed her wrist. Relax. I'm showing you something. Her voice pitched up. You're hurting me. He yanked her forward, making her stumble into the cage wall. You think you can just walk away? His eyes locked on me, daring me to respond. I kept my hands down. The gym went dead silent, except for Kate struggling to pull free. Then the cage door slammed open. David Martinez, the gym owner, stormed in, his face red, veins bulging. He grabbed Bradley's shoulder, yanking him back so hard he had to release her. David's voice was low, dangerous. Get out of my gym before I call the cops. Bradley laughed, muttering about David protecting his meal ticket. But when David pulled out his phone, he finally backed toward the exit, still promising this wasn't over. Kate rubbed her wrist and thanked David. He turned to check on me, but I was already grabbing my stuff, heading for the locker room. I needed to leave before the adrenaline crash hit and my hands started shaking. By the time I reached my car, the video was already on Instagram, from 3 different angles, me getting ragdolled while offering zero defense. Notifications lit up my phone before I even turned the key. I drove home on autopilot, spent the rest of the morning watching the view count explode, along with the comments. Pathetic. Find a new hobby. Guys like you make martial arts look bad. And I just sat there, staring at my screen, feeling every single word land. It was my lunch break when I opened the laptop for my weekly video session with Dr. Smith. She's been my therapist for 2 years now, ever since the incident. Her face filled the screen and she leaned in, telling me she was proud of how I'd handled myself at the gym. 2 years ago, she said, that would have ended in a very different way. I nodded, chewing over her words. I told her how hard it was, how humiliating it felt, to just let Bradley walk all over me in front of everyone. But she reminded me, as she always did, that staying out of legal trouble mattered more than protecting my pride. We went over my breathing drills, my visualization exercises. I picked at my sandwich while she asked if I was still committed to the path we'd chosen, to proving I could keep my cool no matter what. I told her yes, even though every fiber of me had been screaming to counter that takedown, to frame his face when he mounted me, to show everyone what nearly a decade of serious training actually looked like. She must have seen something in my expression because she doubled down, reminding me that one slip, one loss of control could wipe out everything I'd worked for. The session ended with homework, journal about the experience, and we'd revisit it next week. 2 mornings later, my alarm blared at 4:30. I wanted to get in before the morning crowd, train in peace. But when I walked in at 5 a.m., there he was, Bradley, already wrapping his hands, flanked by 3 guys from his fight team. He looked up, grinned like we were old buddies, and gave a friendly little wave. His crew snickered behind him. I went straight to the heavy bags in the far corner, head down, focused on warming up. Still, I could feel their eyes on me. About 20 minutes into my workout, Bradley drifted over, phone in hand, recording as he spoke loud enough for the whole gym to hear. "Hey, the internet's new favorite fighter." He joked about his girlfriend thinking I was adorable, like a puppy trying to fight. His buddies laughed from across the room. I kept my combos light, nothing fancy, no real power. I knew exactly what he was fishing for. He circled for a better angle, tossing out lines about how maybe I should stick to cardio kickboxing, something more my level. That's when Kate walked in for her early shift. One look at the scene and she was marching toward us, planting herself between me and Bradley. She told him David, the owner, had made it clear, no interacting with me. Bradley laughed, holding his hands up in mock surrender, backing off while making fake crying sounds. His crew howled. Kate stayed beside me until he slinked back to the mats. She squeezed my shoulder. "Don't let him get to you," she said. I tried to get back into training, but it was pointless. Every move I made, Bradley's crew was snapping pictures, filming clips. If I moved to another station, they adjusted their position to keep me in frame. One guy even tripped during my cool-down stretches, spilling water near my gear while fake apologizing, camera rolling the whole time. I cut my workout short, slipping out the back. As I left, I heard them talking about coming back at the same time tomorrow. A week later, the original Cage video had passed 2 million views. Memes everywhere, edited with cartoon stars over my head, a health bar draining to 0, even baby crying sound effects timed to my face. My coworkers kept sharing them in Slack, adding laughing emojis. They had no idea it was me. I had to laugh along. Pretend. The worst part? Reading the expert comments, people who train, saying I was everything wrong with modern martial arts, that I'd probably bought my belt online, that gyms should screen better. At the gym, I started noticing the looks. The whispers. People waiting to see if I'd come back at all. That's when Ryan Cooper approached me. Purple belt. Morning regular. Smaller guy but sharp. He caught me between rounds on the mirror mats and said he'd seen what really happened. Bradley's been bullying smaller fighters for months, he told me, and nobody stopped him because he brings in money from his fights. Then he offered to train together. Smaller guys gotta stick together, he said. Something in his tone told me he'd been on the wrong end of someone like Bradley before. I accepted, cautiously. We started light, basic drills. I stayed simple, nothing flashy. But 10 minutes in, Ryan pulled back, brow furrowed. "You're good," he said. "Really good. Why didn't you defend yourself that day?" I muttered something about it being complicated, then pushed to keep going. But I could see the wheels turning in his head as he tested me, feeling the way I redirected his pressure without muscle, kept perfect base through every transition. 3 days later, I was loading groceries into my car when Bradley's lifted truck rolled up beside me, despite the nearly empty lot. He hopped out, doing this fake surprised act like he just happened to see me. Took a sip from his protein shaker, nodded at my car, and made some crack about his truck payment being more than my rent. Then, oops, the shaker slipped from his hand, exploding chocolate shake all over my windshield. He jumped back like it was an accident, apologizing loudly, repeating for anyone nearby that he just had surgery on that hand, like he was building his alibi in real time. I glanced up at the light pole camera, it had been spray-painted black. I remembered noticing it when I parked, but it only clicked now. And the way he'd parked, his truck completely blocked the store's cameras. He offered to help clean up but was already walking away, telling me to wash it quick before it ruined the seals. His voice carried across the lot for everyone to hear. Kate had been watching from the gym's front window. She rushed outside, took one look at the mess, and you could see her jaw clench. She said something about reporting it to David, but I shook my head. Bradley would just deny it and make things worse. She kicked at a chunk of ice, muttered something under her breath, and stormed back inside. I saw her through the glass, gesturing sharply as she spoke to someone at the desk. I finished wiping off what I could and drove home with sticky streaks still on the glass, thinking about how predictable Bradley's pattern was becoming, and wondering how far he was planning to take it. The very next day, I walk into the gym and there's Bradley, holding court by the weight racks like he's the mayor of the place. His voice is loud enough to carry across the whole floor. He's telling this ridiculous story about how I supposedly begged him not to mess with my car, how I was practically in tears in the parking lot. A couple of the new members laughed nervously. The regulars? They just kept their heads down. Nobody wants to be his next target. Across the gym, David catches my eye and waves me over. In his office, he shuts the door, runs a hand through his hair, and looks genuinely frustrated. He says his hands are tied, that Bradley brings in nearly a third of the gym's revenue through the students he trains. But he promises me he's watching the situation. I just nod. Because really, what's there to say? We both know nothing's changing unless something forces it. 2 more weeks of the same crap. Little accidents. Public digs. Always with people watching, always just far enough under the line that he can call it a joke if anyone asks. During my next virtual therapy session, I tell Dr. Smith about the pattern, how he makes sure there's an audience, but positions himself where cameras can't see. She leans forward, explaining how narcissists operate, how they need spectators, and how they'll keep poking until they get the explosion they're looking for. We finish with her telling me to document everything and maybe consider switching gyms. But we both know I won't. Leaving would feel like letting him win. The next morning, Kate catches me at the water fountain, her voice barely above a whisper. She tells me Bradley's been harassing her for months, getting worse. Yesterday, he cornered her in the supply closet. I freeze. My weight shifts forward, fists loose, my body ready before my brain catches up. She steps back. And in her eyes for a split second I see fear, not of Bradley but of me. Of what she just saw surface. I force my shoulders to drop, unclench my hands and take a slow breath. Then I tell her to start writing everything down. Dates. Times. What happened? She nods quickly and leaves. I stand there alone, fighting down the urge to solve this in the way I used to solve problems. The next day, Ryan finds me hitting the bag. He says he's been training with me long enough now to see Bradley's patterns. Then he shows me his phone, he's been recording some of it. Just in case we ever need proof. I'm grateful and worried. If Bradley finds out, it's going to get ugly. From then on, Ryan and I train together regularly. But Bradley's crew makes it their personal mission to interrupt. Always accidentally. Always grinning. Kicking over our water bottles, stepping on our gear, claiming they need our space for drills. We just move. Over and over. Never giving them the reaction they're fishing for. One day, after they've interrupted us 4 separate times, Bradley decides to put on a show. He calls a new student to the center mat and says he's going to demonstrate what happens when someone can't defend themselves. The whole time his eyes are locked on me. He grabs the kid in a standing armbar, explaining, loudly, how easy it is to blow out an elbow. Then he cranks it just far enough to make the kid yelp and tap, but holds it an extra beat before letting go. Next, he moves to a neck crank, going into detail about spinal separation, paralysis, all while the kid's face turns red. Still watching me, still waiting for me to step in. I keep my eyes forward and work the heavy bag. Measured strikes. Staying grounded. That night, Kate texts me. She's scared to come to work. Bradley waited by her car for an hour after her shift. The next morning, I get to the gym early and find a process server outside with a manila envelope and a photo of Bradley on his phone. 20 minutes later, Bradley's truck pulls in, music shaking the windows. He struts inside wearing full sponsor gear. The server steps up, confirms his name, and hands him the papers. Bradley tears them open in the doorway. His expression runs from confused to angry to amused. Then he looks at me and laughs. This guy actually thinks he can sue me. He might as well have worn a director's headset during that protein shake stunt. It was so perfectly staged. His hand injury apparently only affects his grip next to certain windshields in camera-free parking lots. My dad's golf buddy is a judge, he adds, before crumpling the papers and missing the trash can. Then he pulls out his phone, records himself talking about fake victims and money grabs, making sure to pan toward me between sets. Within an hour, his Instagram story is everywhere, full of insults. By afternoon, the gym's Google reviews are tanked, 1-star ratings from accounts I've never seen, calling the place a haven for scammers and liars. David calls me in the next day. He looks exhausted, shows me the numbers, 4.8 stars down to 2.1 overnight. 3 membership cancellations. 2 potential signups who walked out after reading the reviews. I support you, he says, but I'm losing members. I have kids to feed. His voice cracks. I tell him I'll think about it, but Jessica's already warned me, backing down now will only make it worse. 2 weeks of daily posts. Bradley digs through my social media, circles random things as proof I'm lying. He edits old sparring footage into meme compilations with laugh tracks. Then Jessica calls, for more people want to file complaints against him. One woman from Colorado Springs even has police reports. The case is stronger, but so is his harassment. Anonymous messages to my coworkers and family. Screenshots of his posts left under my windshield wipers. Pizza deliveries I never ordered. Thursday, I walk out of work and find all 4 tires slashed to the rims. Clean cuts, box cutter maybe. Security footage shows someone in a hoodie and mask, face always turned away. And conveniently, Bradley was live streaming at a sports bar with 8 friends during the whole thing. Ryan finds me sitting on the curb, waiting for a tow truck. He doesn't say anything at first, just sits beside me. Then he says, Bradley doesn't know where I live. You can crash at my place. You'll be safer. I say yes. The thought of going back to my apartment makes my skin crawl. The next day, my boss pulls me aside. Someone posing as a background investigator called, asking about my mental health and whether I'd ever been violent. She hung up when they couldn't provide credentials but wanted me to know. That afternoon, Kate sends a group text to the whole gym, she's quitting. Not coming back for her things. Moving back to Nebraska to live with her parents. David tries to call, but she just texts back, she doesn't feel safe anywhere Bradley might be. Without her behind the desk, the gym feels different. Quieter. Tenser. Like everyone's holding their breath, waiting for something to happen. The following week, Bradley's lawyer hit back with a countersuit. Defamation. Intentional interference with his fighting career. Damages for lost sponsorship opportunities and emotional distress. According to the filing, my actions had given him anxiety and insomnia. Jessica read it over the phone and actually laughed. But then her tone shifted, because even a laughable lawsuit costs money to fight. And Bradley's family? Clearly not hurting for cash. That's when I started training at 4 a.m. Just me, the sound of my keycard unlocking the door and the empty mats. No chance of running into Bradley. At least that's what I thought, until one morning I opened my locker and saw it. Liar. Written in thick, black permanent marker across the inside of the door. Next to it, a crude drawing I won't describe. Security told me the camera for that locker row had been down for maintenance all week. We both knew who did it. Jessica called later that day, right while I was scrubbing marker stains with rubbing alcohol in the locker room. She wanted me at her office immediately. I walked into her conference room to find papers spread across the entire table, property records, campaign finance reports, her laptop open to a spreadsheet full of highlighted names. She pointed to one, Bradley's father, owner of 3 major Denver development companies. Over $200,000 in donations to judicial campaigns in the last 5 years. The judges' names? The same ones likely to hear our case. Jessica explained we could file motions to have different judges assigned, but even that would go through clerks who knew which side of the bread their butter was on. While she's talking, my phone won't stop buzzing. It's Ryan. 12 texts in a row. His girlfriend, Sarah, is being harassed at work by Bradley's guys. They've shown up 3 times this week. By the last message, Ryan's saying Sarah's threatening to leave him if he doesn't drop out of the case. She's already packed a bag. I tell him I'll understand if he steps back. But he replies, I'm not abandoning you. Even if it costs him. That night I barely sleep. I keep replaying the parking lot incident in my head. My fists are clenched under the blanket until my forearms ache. The next morning I'm sitting in Dr. Johnson's office before sunrise. I pace while I talk about the dreams where I break every promise I've made and hurt Bradley the way I swore I never would. About waking up with my jaw locked so tight it feels like it might crack. Dr. Johnson takes notes, then leans forward. Violent thoughts don't make you violent. The fact you're here? That's proof of how far you've come. 3 days later, I'm at the grocery store loading bags into my trunk when Bradley's truck swings in behind me, blocking my car. 4 guys pile out with him. I recognize every face from the gym. They fan out in a half circle while I stand there holding a bag of frozen vegetables. Bradley steps in close enough for me to smell the protein shake on his breath. Drop the lawsuit, he says, or things get worse. You have no idea who you're messing with. My father has connections everywhere. I shift the bag to my left hand, slide my right into my pocket, my phone already recording, angling it so his face is in frame. He notices. Lunges for my pocket. I pivot back into the side, letting his own momentum take him forward. He stumbles, catches the curb and drops to one knee. One of his guys laughs nervously. That only makes Bradley's face go red. He gets up, brushes off gravel and storms off. I send the video to Jessica before they're even out of the lot. She calls back within minutes. This is criminal intimidation. We can add charges. A week later, we're in court for a hearing. Jessica's confirmed the judge isn't one of Bradley's dad's donation buddies. Bradley's lawyer stands up first. Claims I'm a trained fighter pretending to be helpless to gain sympathy. Says it's all a setup to extort money from an upstanding family. Jessica fires back. Bradley's arrest records from 3 different counties, a history of violence going back 6 years, plus statements from gym members who've seen him injure people before. The judge takes her time reviewing it all. Bradley just sits there, smirking at me. Finally, she issues a 500-foot no-contact order until trial. Bradley's smirk widens. We both know he'll find ways around it. That night, David calls. Says he's banned Bradley from Elite MMA for good. Says he should have done it months ago. But the damage is already done. Bradley's crew moves to Apex Fight Club across town, and they still show up wherever I am. Coffee shop. Grocery store. Even outside my building. Always just far enough to be legal. Always making sure I see them. And in the back of my mind I can't shake the feeling, Bradley's dad, the judge buddy, the crumpled legal papers, it was all theater. He probably knew exactly how this would play out before he even walked into the gym that day. 3 months later, I'm sitting in the witness waiting room at the courthouse downtown, checking my phone every few seconds while Jessica huddles with the prosecutor. Kate's testifying by video from a secure location. Bradley had already violated the restraining order twice trying to get to her. When they wheel the monitor into the courtroom, I see her hands shaking, even through the grainy video feed. The prosecutor asks her to describe what happened that day in the gym, and her voice cracks as she talks about Bradley grabbing her wrist, yanking her around, calling her names I won't repeat. At the defense table, Bradley's in a suit that doesn't quite fit, jaw clenched so hard I can see the muscles twitch from across the room. Then Kate says he followed her to her car after I'd left. That he sent her dozens of messages threatening to ruin her life if she testified. Bradley explodes, jumps to his feet, lunges at the TV screen. The bailiffs grab him halfway there, but not before he yells something that makes the jury physically recoil. The judge calls a recess. When we come back, he's in shackles. Then it's my turn. For the first time since this started, I let them see a glimpse of what I'd been holding back. Not everything, but enough. I tell them about my years of training, my competition record, the techniques I knew but chose not to use that day. The jury leans forward when I explain how I could have ended the confrontation in seconds, but chose not to. Bradley's lawyer tries to twist it, paints me as jealous, the real aggressor. I stay calm, pull out my phone and show the jury the receipts. Texts where Bradley called me slurs and warned others not to train with me. Videos of him bragging about teaching me a lesson. Security footage of him seeking me out. Emails where he tried to get David to ban me from the gym. It's all there. And it's all damning. At lunch break, I walk into the bathroom and, of course, Bradley's there. No bailiff. You destroyed my life, he says, stepping close. I meet his eyes. No. You did that yourself. He lifts his fist, but footsteps in the hall make him drop it. The jury's back in 2 hours. By then, most of his supporters have quietly slipped out. Even his father is sitting alone, staring at his hands. Guilty on all counts. Assault. Criminal harassment. Intimidation. Witness tampering. Bradley looks genuinely stunned, like he never thought the system would actually hold him accountable. Sentencing is set for 6 weeks later. When that day comes, the courtroom is packed with his victims. One by one they speak. A woman from a coffee shop who needed therapy after he cornered her in the parking lot. A teenager whose parents pulled him out of school because Bradley kept showing up at his games. An older man who stopped training after Bradley accidentally broke his ribs in sparring. The judge's expression hardens with each statement. When she speaks, she lays it out: years of predatory behavior, escalation, no remorse. 18 months in state prison. 3 years supervised probation. Anger management. Restitution to every victim. Permanent ban from any gym in the state. When it's my turn, I look at him one last time. I hope you get help, I say. Real help. This doesn't have to define your future if you choose to change. He won't meet my eyes. The bailiffs cuff him and walk him out. His father, out on bail himself for threatening Jessica, never looks up. Outside, the air feels different. People are hugging, crying. Kate texts to say she can finally sleep without checking her locks 5 times. David shakes my hand, says I'm welcome back anytime. The gym slowly fills again, old members returning, new ones signing up because they've heard the story. David posts a new set of rules on the wall about respect and zero tolerance for harassment, his signature in bold red ink. Ryan shows up at my apartment one morning with his gear bag. We don't talk much on the drive, just let the radio fill the space. On the mats, we roll for an hour straight. No words needed. 2 months later, I finally see the therapist Jessica recommended. Dr. Williams tells me something that sits heavy. My restraint didn't just protect me, it saved lives, including Bradley's. The letters start arriving. From people who trained at gyms where Bradley had been. People who never spoke up before. People thanking me for standing up. I keep them all in a manila folder, labeled in black Sharpie. Back at the gym, sometimes people recognize me from the news. I steer them toward the heavy bag, show them a jab, a mount escape. Teaching them that strength isn't about proving you can fight, it's about choosing when to fight. One night, I delete the viral video from my phone. Watch it vanish from my gallery. It doesn't define me anymore. Sunday mornings become a routine. Ryan and me, coffee in hand, mats to ourselves. One day, he suggests a class for people who've been bullied. Self-defense, but also the discipline to not use it unless you have to. It clicks. 3 months after the trial, I'm standing in the same cage where it all began. Sunlight cutting patterns across the canvas. I start shadowboxing, slow, deliberate. Every punch a choice. People start filing in for morning class, but I keep moving, keep breathing. Choosing every second to be the fighter I want to be. If you enjoyed today's drama, just imagine what's waiting in the next one. Hit like, subscribe, and let's go find the next train wreck together. Thanks for watching.